In a world where trust is shattered and love is tested, one channel dares to uncover the untold stories of heartbreak and betrayal. Welcome to Heartbreak Chronicles, where real-life tales of infidelity are unraveled, secrets exposed, and lives forever changed. Join us as we navigate the complex world of relationships, offering support, understanding, and a place for those who have faced the pain of betrayal. Subscribe to Heartbreak Chronicles now, because every story deserves to be told, and every heartbreak deserves to be heard. Story 1. I've gotten my revenge on my cheating girlfriend and I still don't think I can forgive her. I didn't expect this to be so long before writing, so skip to the TLDR to find out why I think I'm a bad person. A lot of background. My girlfriend had a period for about a year and a bit into our relationship. Every second weekend for a few months was girls' night and she'd go out with her girlfriends. Sometimes she'd message me with pictures, sometimes I wouldn't hear back until the next morning when she crashed at one of her friends' houses. I brought it up a few times that I didn't like being in the dark about her nights, but she told me I should just trust her. I really didn't like this, but it didn't matter by the end of it as she decided to cut herself off from that friend group and cut back on drinking. Our relationship continued. Whenever I asked about those friends, she said the girls' nights weren't fair to me and she wanted to spend time to focus on us, and so those weekends turned into board game nights, movie nights, nights of experimentation, etc. Fast forward 3 years to about a month ago, my girlfriend and I were drinking for the first time in ages, and I was egging her on to do shots with me because I always thought she was cute when she got tipsy, but instead she just looked sad, and after a while she broke down into tears. It took a long while of consoling to get her to respond, to which she said she wanted to talk to her sister and if I could give her a bit. I honestly had no idea what this was about. I thought some family drama until she came back out and told me the truth, since apparently it had been eating her alive for the past 3 years. On the last girls' night she had cheated on me. She begged me to forgive her, and when I asked her what she meant by cheated, she begged me not to ask for details as it would make things worse. My heart sank then, because hearing that made it clear it most likely wasn't just a kiss. I told her it was stupid to half confess then expect me to forgive her, and she was just inconsolable at that point, so after about 10 minutes of trying to get her to spit out what she had done, she denied me any details. I told her, if you don't tell me what you did right now, I'm walking out the door and you'll never see me again. Which made her freak out so loud I was afraid that the police would be called, so I started to go for the door where she stopped me. She confessed she had slept with 2 men that her friends had met that night. She tried to hug me in an effort to stop me leaving, but I kept her at arm's distance and I couldn't even think of what to ask. My life felt like it unraveled. I told her to go to bed and we'll talk about this in the morning, and I had planned to leave, but she ended up holding on to me, begging me to stay the night. The whole night I just stewed in my anger as she whimpered into my chest before falling asleep. Come morning she looked like a corpse, all the life was drained out of her face. I asked her to explain what happened in detail, and if I find out anywhere down the line that she skipped a detail or obscured something, I would never forgive her. She essentially explained that 2 guys were hanging around the group with them and buying everyone drinks, and she was insecure that they weren't giving her any attention, so when they finally started talking to her, she felt validated. She left with them to party after the night out, and that's where they hooked up. The speech sounded like the culmination of 3 years of reflection on that night. The first question to the top of my mind was, so both at the same time? To which she said yes, and that made my skin crawl. I then asked if she still had contact with them, to which she responded she doesn't even know their names. I asked if she got an STD test, to which she looked a bit annoyed at first, then immediately dropped the face, and she said yes, and they wore protection. I had to ask on top of that if the STD test was negative, to which she said yes. I then started looking for reasons. Were you on drugs? Were you forced? Did they threaten you? All no's. I then asked why. She has no idea, she just didn't care at that time, and once they finished she knew she messed up. I asked her if this was the only time and she said yes, but then added that she had kissed a guy as well when out, but had very little recollection of it. I then went into detail about how long before the sex was the kiss. Why didn't she stop going out after the kiss? She didn't have a good answer for that and just started apologizing, saying that she isn't like that anymore, she doesn't want to lose me. I told her there that I wanted to break up, which made her freak out and begin pleading that we can work things out. We had a back and forth about how I think that everything we've done is fake, since the woman I've been dating is this guilt-ridden persona of herself, and I would have broken up with her had she been honest. She said that night was the night that made her realize that she loved me more than anything and didn't want to lose me. I then asked her if she would forgive herself, and she said yes very quickly. I told her that if she was home every other weekend wondering if I'm out with friends or having sex with some stranger, then I came home and apologized and she would forgive me. She said if I was honest about it and wouldn't do it again, then yes, she would. I said she's full of shit, but she stood by it, saying that is honestly how she felt. So I ended up calling her bluff and told her, okay, every second weekend I'm going out and you won't hear back from me until the weekends are over, and you'll just have to trust that I'm not having sex with other people. I could tell she wanted to say no, but she had already locked herself in, so we went back to our normal lives. I was obviously cold to her at first, but she put on a brave face thinking we were making it through this. The weekend came and I said I'm going out and she looked like a ghost but didn't stop me. I assumed she thought I was bluffing, which I suppose I was. I went to my friend's house who knew about the whole situation and we just binged some TV shows and had a few drinks. I ignored all her messages during the time, and when I came home she gave me a big hug and kiss and looked like she was trying to see my night through my eyes, but I gave her nothing. This became a routine and she was walking around like a zombie 24/7, and I thought about giving up the ruse a few times because I saw the woman I loved for a brief moment, but then the thought of her cheating on me would always pull me back to this vengeful state. My friend told me what I'm doing is evil and I should just dump her if I can't forgive her, to which I agree. I'm not getting a kick out of seeing her dying inside. It honestly makes me feel awful because I know what a great loyal girlfriend she would be now, but I just can't love her anymore. I need to tell her now that there is nothing we can do to fix this. I can't move past what she did, but I'm worried about the fallout from this situation I've put her through. TLDR, my girlfriend cheated on me, so I made her agree to let me go out to cheat on her to show her how it feels. Story 2. I unintentionally have the best cheating ex-revenge story ever and I hate myself for it. I was in a relationship with this girl when we were both in college. Our relationship was very toxic and I now realize that a lot of that was me. I would get insecure and jealous over every little thing that she tried to do and would try to stop her from pursuing the things she likes because of this. One of the things she really got into was modeling. She started doing photo shoots with a pretty well-known photographer in our area, and this made me very upset at the time. This was almost a decade ago and I have become more mature since. I told her how I felt and we started to argue. In the end, there was pretty much an unspoken agreement that she would be allowed to continue her modeling thing. I would soon come to realize that my assumptions, though in hindsight seemed absolutely delusional, were actually correct as I went through her phone and found messages between them calling each other daddy and baby. I confronted her about this and she insisted that it was purely platonic, and my dumb face believed her. A few months pass and I go through her phone once again only to find really long conversations between them with an awful lot of I love yous which they exchanged frequently throughout. This was still not enough for me to want to end the relationship, but the third incident was the straw that broke the camel's back. We were out on a date and at some point she told me that she wanted to go through my phone. I told her that she's welcome to do so long as I get to go through hers. She then changes her mind, which only piques my curiosity even more. So I insist that she go through my phone and that I will do the same with hers after. She goes through my phone and finds absolutely nothing because I genuinely don't cheat. And as you'd probably expect, I find new conversations on her phone, this time with the guy's girlfriend, where she appears to be very upset as she calls her various derogatory words for being in his house with him alone. This prompts me to end the relationship right then and there, and they make their relationship official on social media just a few weeks later. Now fast forward a couple years, they break up and one of our mutual friends thinks it would be a good idea to get us back together so that maybe I can help mend her broken heart. I don't mind the idea, as I've always felt like even though the relationship ended on bad terms, I could have done better in the relationship. So we meet up and one thing leads to another and we do the deed. She then tells me that she hates how the relationship ended and that it was a shame that we couldn't make it work. I agree with her, although there is a small part of me that just wants to scream it didn't work because you're a lying, cheating BTCH. We meet up more frequently over the next few days and it always ends with me and her in bed. However, at some point, she asks if I have any plans on making it official between us. I decided to lie and tell her I had just gotten out of my own relationship and that I wasn't ready to start a new one. The truth was that I had been single for a while and was only beginning to be happy again. I started to appreciate having more time to actually do things that I wanted to do, to be able to be with my family more, and focus on my priorities in life. I truly felt at this point that I had grown so much since we last spoke and that she was still the same person, just with a different hairstyle. I knew right then that I had no plans on getting back together with her. She then hits me with the last question I want to hear: when will you be ready? At the spur of the moment, I tell her that I'm not sure yet, but maybe soon, and so trouble begins. We continue to meet up and hook up and talk, and day after day, she asks the same question: are you ready yet? You know when you're on a really long road trip and the kid at the back is constantly asking, are we there yet? And you just want to turn the van around and tell them we're not going anymore because of them, just to make them feel SHTTY. Well, it was something like that. I couldn't take it anymore and just wanted to shut her up. But instead of telling her the truth, I told her something else entirely. I told her that this was all an elaborate ploy by me to get revenge on her for cheating all those years ago, and that I had been waiting for an opportunity to screw her over. I told her that I didn't care about her at all and that she was delusional for thinking I would ever get back with her after what she had done. Of course, this conversation ends with her in tears and I drop her off at our mutual friend's place and we never talk again. It has been a few years since and I still feel guilty knowing that she was probably in a very vulnerable state and that I had made her feel even worse. I would very much like the opportunity to tell her the truth, that I had pretty much forgiven her for what she did even back then and that I understand that I was also very toxic during our relationship, but that's not happening because she blocked me on all socials and the last thing I want is to drag our mutual friend into anything involving her ever again. Edit, I understand that the whole cheating thing maybe sorta justifies what I did to some people, but I was already pretty much over it at that point and was at first genuinely willing to give it a shot again. You might argue she deserved it, but I just feel bad knowing there were better ways to let her down, but I just wasn't brave enough to deal with it. Story 3. My wife cheated on me with her best friend and I don't know how to save my marriage. It feels so hard and painful even to type. I wish it had never happened. My wife and I are high school sweethearts and have been together since we were 15 and 16 respectively. If it's relevant or not, but I was her first everything while I had been with one girl before her. I have always known my wife as an incredibly beautiful, smart, witty, bubbly, and most importantly compassionate person. Due to how gorgeous she has always been, guys have always hit on her, but she only chose me and I have always been really proud and glad of that. We got married 2 years ago, been together for 9 years. Until this point it has always been an immensely happy and smooth relationship with barely any arguments, fights at all and lots of love and loyalty. Everyone who knows us says that we never left the honeymoon phase and we believed it as well, going on regular dates, giving gifts, exciting sex life, etc. She never did anything which would give me any reason to not trust her, doubt her. All of this makes it harder for me. Hannah has 6-7 close friends, all women, and one friend she's incredibly close to is Amanda. Hannah and Amanda are BFFs and have known each other for about 6 years. They do everything together and spend all their time with each other, be it with the other girls as well or just the two of them. They share all their secrets, feelings, issues, etc. with each other, and I used to be happy that Hannah had a trustworthy best friend in her life. I have never been the jealous kind because I had immense trust in Hannah and knew she'd never violate it. In fact, I never even fought any guy who hit on her because she turned them away herself. When it came to Amanda, I had just one issue. I felt she was a bit too close to Hannah, like frequently touching, grabbing her, and this felt a bit inappropriate to me, but female friendships are different from male ones and they're a lot more touchy, so I didn't object. Plus Hannah told me that's how Amanda is, even though I never noticed Amanda being like that with the other girls, only Hannah. Also, Amanda is openly bisexual, but I didn't say anything to my wife because I didn't want to soil their special relationship. I think I've already given too much background, so let's come to the incident itself. Last weekend the girls were having a girls' night and going to a concert and then to a bar. They left from our place at around 7 p.m. and Hannah told me she'd be back by around 1 a.m. At roughly 12:50 a.m. I saw their Instagram post still at the bar, so I thought they were just having fun for longer and sent her a take care message. Eventually I drifted off to sleep since I wasn't really concerned because she was with friends and they're all responsible. She eventually came back home at around 6:30 in the morning with her hair and makeup messed up a little and she was avoiding eye contact with me and behaved oddly. She just went to sleep. This got me anxious, but I thought she was probably just really tired. I waited for her to wake up, which she did at around 12, and then took a shower. I asked her how the night was and she said it was good, but she didn't feel chatty or bubbly like usual. I sensed something was off, so I asked her what's wrong, but she didn't reply. Eventually, after about 10 minutes of me insisting that she tell me what's going on, she broke down in tears and hugged me and said she up and asked me not to hate her. At this point I had a mini heart attack and thought she had cheated on me with some guy. I asked her what she meant, and she told me that last night she slept with Amanda. This not only shocked me but confused me to the core. I calmed her down and told her to tell me everything in detail. As Hannah told me, after being done with the concert and the bar, most girls left but Amanda, Hannah, and 2 others went to Amanda's place for a while to relax before going home. This was around 2:30 a.m. After about 30 minutes the other 2 also left for their homes, so it was just Amanda and Hannah. At first they were just hanging out and having fun, having some wine. Then Amanda started flirting with Hannah, telling her how hot she is, and got handsy, and she just went with the flow because she was quite drunk and also because she was enjoying it. After a while of this, Amanda kissed my wife, which she says sent this strange pleasure down her body, so she didn't stop it and they ended up having sex. Even though I didn't want to listen more about my wife having sex with someone else, I pressed her for more details, like what exactly did they do and how long for, and very shamefully she said they did it for about 2 hours and told me what all they did, which is basically every sexual thing 2 girls can do to each other. I didn't say anything to her because I was stunned. She said she's really guilty and she loves me very much. I told her it's a lot for me and I need to think, so I left for a walk. Honestly, I don't even understand how to react. I talked to several friends, and while some said it's just like regular cheating, some said it's not a big deal because it was with another girl. I'm confused because honestly, I am indeed a little bit relieved that it wasn't with some other guy as I suspected initially, but at the same time, even if it was a girl, it wasn't me, and she shouldn't have hooked up with anyone. And the thing which really hurts is that I have always been supportive of her, and had she told me that she wanted to sexually experiment with girls, I probably would have supported her because she's never been with anyone else, and to me a girl sleeping with a girl is not the same as doing it with a guy, which leads me to think that maybe I feel hurt not because she slept with Amanda but because she misused my trust and didn't consult me. I don't think I'd be able to make rational decisions right now, so I need advice about how to proceed. Apart from this, she has never done anything wrong throughout the relationship, and even now she's extremely apologetic since she knows I'm hurt and has been begging me not to leave her because she says she'll die if I leave her. What should I do? Update. A lot of people have been messaging me and commenting on my post asking for an update, so here it is. I received a lot of different advice on Reddit, most of which was to just leave her. I was already very upset and hurt, so I left to stay in a hotel for 3 days and told her I need time to make up my mind, and I might send her divorce papers, so be ready for that. She didn't try to manipulate me but begged me to decide anything with a clear mind and how much our marriage meant to her. During those 3 days I was miserable because I missed her a lot, though I was getting updates about her from my brother who kept checking on her, and she was miserable as well. So I moved back after 3 days but didn't talk to her a lot. She kept apologizing to me and doing everything she could, like cutting off all contact with Amanda, giving me her passwords, etc. I often found her crying alone, and even my brother and her sister, who she's really close with, told me how distraught she was over everything and depressed over ruining her marriage. After about a week of this, and after seeing how remorseful she was, I decided to sit down with her and talk. She freaked out when I said I wanted to talk. She probably thought I was going to talk about divorce, though I said I wanted to talk about how we are going to move forward. I don't remember the exact words, but I said something along the lines of, "While you did make a big mistake and I can't just forgive you for it yet since the hurt is still there, I want you to know that I love you. I know you love me. While I can't promise everything will be back to normal, I do want us to work on our marriage together and grow our magic back. Just know that I don't hate you and don't want you to think less of yourself. Learn from the mistake and never repeat it, but don't punish yourself more than necessary and lose yourself. I want you back, just the way you always were." When I was finished, she burst into tears and cried for a few minutes on my chest. She said that I had taken a massive burden off her heart and conscience. She thanked me heaps and said she'd never let anyone even touch her apart from me, and how grateful she was for the chance to be with her love. We both shared some of our deepest feelings about this incident and the relationship itself. It was an incredibly intimate heart-to-heart conversation, and we didn't hide anything. She also came clean about one more thing. She said when Amanda used to touch her, she sometimes used to get a little aroused, excited, and knew it was wrong, so she asked her a few times to dial down her touchiness, but also didn't want to lose her as a friend. This is important because it proves that my wife had emotional battles regarding her sexuality even before. I told her I really appreciated her opening up to me and quashing all the secrets. We kept on talking about the marriage, our wedding day, all our beautiful moments. She told me that she thinks she's bi and promised never to use it as an excuse to cheat again. I told her that in the future I might consider letting her explore other women without me, like a threesome or even just her and another woman, but only with my permission, and she agreed. For the first time in days, I saw my bubbly wife again. I also told her that I'm taking her on a date the next day, and she gleamed with joy. The date went incredibly well. I was surprised when she came from the room after getting dressed. She was wearing a beautiful red dress and looked stunning. I complimented her and she blushed. The night was good and we talked a lot. We went to a nice restaurant. It pretty much felt like a first date, high on emotions and excitement. Then we went stargazing. In terms of our relationship, everything is good now and we feel much better compared to last month. However, a few days after our date, we found out from some of her friends that Amanda had taken a few pics of my wife that night, though I took care of it and got everything deleted because she freaked out as soon as I mentioned legal actions. My wife is very pissed at her, so I think the Amanda chapter is closed forever now. Thank you to everyone who gave good advice. Edit. After reading the comments, I think I'll ask my wife to sign a post-nup. Story 4. I turned him into a monster and I hope I can change him back to the man he once was. This is going to be a bit long, but this is acting as a way for me to vent and ask for other wayward for advice in fixing my marriage. It's been 7 months since my husband discovered my affair. The both of us are 39 and my husband before discovery was sweet. He's not a perfect man, he has his quirks, but I was his world. Our family was his world. He worked long hours to make sure I stayed home and raised our son and daughter. He would always do these sweet things just to brighten my day, and it did. My husband was the opposite. In high school, he was rude, charming, and obnoxious, used to get into a lot of fights, and had a lot of girlfriends. And yet for some reason, the summer before senior year, he wanted to talk to me. I was the nerdy girl into video games, comic books, and cosplay. He was always nice to me ever since he moved into our town in 8th grade. He was different, his family was different, and everyone wanted to hang out with him. I was invited to my first party because of him. He taught me how to dance salsa and then he fell with the popular crowd and I thought that was it. But that summer he walked into the comic shop I was working in and just hung out all day talking to me and even walked me home. One day became many and we were dating by summer's end. I had the greatest senior year of my life. I was part of the popular crowd, and I went to so many parties, but my favorite moment was when it was just the two of us. Of course, I never slacked off. I studied hard and I made him study with me. We both got into the same college and we were married shortly after graduation. Our son came a year and a half later and our daughter 20 months after that. My husband worked hard for us during all this. He had trouble finding a job because he had no experience, so he worked odd jobs in construction, grave digging, janitorial, and as a receptionist, until he found a company that would give him a chance as a computer tech. My husband put on a lot of weight during that time, but it never decreased his sexual appetite. As for me, I kept my figure and maintained it, and soon we looked like a cartoon couple. A fat, yet a muscular man with a slender, fit wife. We even dressed as Barney and Betty Rubble one Halloween that emphasized the cliché. It's not like he didn't work out, he just had a hard time losing the body fat, but his sexual appetite was always high. For me, it was decreasing. It's not like I didn't want to have sex, it's just that I wasn't in the mood, and as the years passed I wasn't in the mood for sexual favors as well. I was always tired. The kids really drained me, cooking and cleaning really drained me. Yes, he did help with the laundry, cooking, and cleaning. Made sure said it was takeout day and Sunday was daddy cook day, but I was still tired and not in the mood. I used to love it when he took it from me, but I still gave him more no's than yes. It would affect his mood the longer we didn't have it. He'll snap and complain, and when we did have sex, he would turn it into a marathon and I would hate it because I would be sore for the next week and he would still want more. He would ask me to cosplay for him and I didn't want to do it. However, he had no issues wearing the costumes I made him for comic and video game conventions, knowing that he really hated it. Our lack of sex was a big issue for him. We even went to couple counseling and our counselor said my husband was a borderline sex addict, but only wanted to have sex with me. I then had myself checked out and from my examination, it turned out that I have low estrogen and was even given several medications for it, but it still didn't work. My doctor soon told me that I was suffering from female impotence, something that I thought was made up. The affair wasn't planned. It wasn't romantic or something grandiose, it wasn't something that happened. I was out with my friends. We're all married, we all go to the same church, and we were just bowling and having fun. It was the first time since the lockdowns we got together and we just had a blast. At the end of the game, all the ladies left, and instead of going home, I went to the lounge so I could wait out the buzz I had, and that was where I met my affair partner. He was young, in his early 20s, and he noticed I was reading a manga on my phone and we began talking. I wished I could blame it on the alcohol, but I was only buzzed. I wish I could blame it on being lonely, but my husband always wanted me and gave me plenty of attention. I wish I could say I had an unhappy marriage, but we were very happy. In all honesty, I still don't know why I did it. I mean, I know how it happened. We talked for a few hours, he flirted and I flirted back, he walked me to my car and he kissed me. Instead of pushing him away, I kissed him back and we had sex in the motel next door. But I don't know why I did it. It didn't last that long. At first, he tried to have me go down on him and I refused. We just went at it and it was very unsatisfying. About halfway through I realized what the hell I was doing and I shoved him off of me, apologized, got dressed, and left. When I came home, my husband was asleep with the kid on the sofa and I went into the shower and cried about what I did. I told myself it was a mistake and it would never happen again. When I came out of the shower, I let my husband and kids sleep on the sofa, went to bed, curled up into a ball, and cried myself to sleep. The next day, I wanted to tell him the truth, but I was too scared. So I pretended it never happened. For 5 weeks I pretended it never happened and I soon realized I was late. I took a pregnancy test and it showed positive and I couldn't understand how. My husband and I did have sex twice, but he had a vasectomy and I made sure the night of the affair that the man wore a condom, and even so, he never finished. I went to the doctor and it turned out I was pregnant, which created a very awkward conversation. We came to the conclusion that the man must have removed the condom and the doctor was telling me how it could have been the precum that did it. I was scared and I scheduled an abortion. I couldn't keep this child. I couldn't do that to him. I was planning to keep this a secret. I got home, cried, and steadied myself for when the kids got home, but my husband came home early. I forced out a smile when he came home, but he was looking at me with rage. Our health equity emailed him with a new claim on the insurance. He asked who the father was and I started crying. He repeated himself and asked how long the affair was. I was truthful. I told him that it was a one-time thing and I pushed him off me, but he didn't believe me. So he repeated himself, but this time he yelled and it felt like it went through my body. I told him it was the truth and he grabbed me by the chin and slammed me against the wall. This was the first time he had ever done this to me, but his eyes were bloodshot, and he was fighting back the tears. He wanted to know the details. What we did, what he looked like, where we met, and then called me a slut in Spanish before walking out of the house. I cried and had my sister pick up my kids because I needed to be alone when he got home. He didn't come home until after midnight. I met him by the door and gasped because he had a black eye, his shirt had bloodstains and his fists were bruised. I asked if he was okay, but he shoved me and told me that the blood wasn't his before entering the bathroom and slamming the door closed. I sat by the stairs, waiting for him to come out, and when he did, he sneered at me and went to the living room. Again I tried to talk to him, but I wanted to know who he fought with, but he ignored me at first. Eventually he looked at me and said, "Who do you think I had a fight with?" I turned white and he resumed watching TV. I went to the bowling alley the following day and asked around. Somehow my husband found out who the guy was and they fought. Fights in the alley are almost a daily thing in our town. It's to the point that unless someone is shot, stabbed, or killed, the sheriff won't bother showing up. For the next week, he kicked me out of our room and had me sleep on the sofa. I tried twice to sneak back onto the bed. The first time he yelled at me to get out, and the second time he shoved me off the bed. I just looked at him when I got off the floor and no words were said, but I went back to the sofa and cried. On the day of my abortion appointment, he told me that I better get it done, and I nodded. I was scared to do it alone, and he looked at me with such hate when I asked him to come with me and then told me to go F myself. When I got back from the procedure, there were pods outside the garage and my husband and his friends were unloading the garage into them. I asked what was going on and he told me that it was none of my effing business. His friends looked at him in shock and I went inside. A few hours later there was a lot of hammering and I went to go look at what was going on, and he was turning the garage into an apartment. I tried to apologize and talk to him, but he ignored me. Then one day, I blew up apologizing for everything and that just angered him. He then told me that he was not going to waste any energy on me. He told me that if he had it his way, he would divorce me, but according to the many lawyers he spoke to, after alimony and child support, he can't afford to live on his own. So he was stuck with me. The first month was awkward because it's hard to explain to the kids what was happening. I tried to invite him over to eat, but he ignored me. He would come home, check on the kids, ignore me and go into his garage apartment. The second month I begged him to go to counseling and he went, but remained quiet only to yell at me about cheating on him, and I had no excuse. Then came the gut punch. I learned he has been screwing around with a lot of women. I thought he was lying just to hurt me, but the expression on his face said otherwise. The counselor asked him how many and he said he doesn't keep count, but said he has been hooking up with random women almost every other day for the past 3 weeks. He needed to feel like a man and feel wanted. He has been using websites and apps, and when the counselor told him that 2 wrongs don't make a right, he fired back by telling her that it wasn't 2 wrongs. I was the one who cheated, broke our vows, lied, got pregnant, and tried to hide it. He's just trying to adapt to his new situation where we pretend to be the happy couple when we're outside, but are just roommates when we get home. It hurt me, but to me, I saw this as a way to still win him back. The following month he began to talk to various women in front of me, and this time I had enough, and I told him that I wanted a divorce and he laughed at me. Told me to go right ahead, but he would make sure everyone knows what happened. He would scream it from the hills, post it on our family's Facebook page, and place it in our annual holiday newsletter to all of our friends and family. That quickly shut me up and he told me to leave, but I didn't want to. We argued and argued. It felt good to get some sort of emotion from him, and somehow we ended up having sex that lasted for hours. When we were done I was happy. I thought we were healing, but he told me to get out, that my usefulness outweighed my welcome. I couldn't believe he said that to me, but I left. For the past few months now it's been that way. Every once in a while we will hook up and he will kick me out as soon as he is finished. He will still go out and I know he's still hooking up with different women. However, we have been talking more, especially during counseling, but we're not healing. During one of our sessions, he told the counselor that something is broken in him. When he looks at me, he feels like he wasted years of his life and is now going through the motions. I asked him if there is a way we can start over, and he told me that as soon as the kids are old enough for him not to pay child support, he'll be divorcing me and walking out. If he's so dead set on divorcing me, then why still go to counseling every week? I'm convinced that he's just saying these things just to hurt me. The other day was our anniversary and our family threw us a party. He played the part of a happy husband and I hated myself for what I did to him. Missed the way our marriage used to be. The way he held my hand and kissed my cheek during the party. Even the sappy speech he made, I wanted to believe it. When we got home, he put the kids to bed and I tried to initiate sex, and we did, but as soon as it was over, he got up and left. I begged him to stay, but he just ignored me and I cried myself to sleep. I need help. I want my husband back. I want our life back. Is there any wayward who has been through this or something similar who can give me advice on fixing this marriage? Please help me.